I'm Arlene, host of the television talk show Ask Arlene, which airs on Thursdays at 6:30. And as a business consultant and life coach, I help you to move forward in your business, project, or endeavor. So if you always wanted to write a book, but you just haven't seemed to get started, or you always wanted to 10x that business that you already have, expand it to the next level, you know exactly what you need to do, but you just haven't done it? Well, I've already purchased all the courses, read all the books, the Tony Robbins, all sorts. I have several degrees, including a master's degree and credits toward a doctorate. I've sat with and met celebrities and done the networking. And what I realized is what I really needed was a mastermind group of people working toward my project, my business, or my endeavor. So what I've done is met with coaches and met with experts and put them together to work on your project. So join us today for our mastermind networking group. I'll see you there. Click the link below and join us.
And welcome to the show. We're so excited today because we have a special show for you, because we have a special guest. I'd like to introduce to some and reintroduce to others Miss Sheila Griffin. Now, Sheila Griffin is an attorney extraordinaire. She is also a minister of the gospel. She's also a master's in public administration and in psychology. Guys, whatever area that you're looking for expertise in, this woman has it covered. And she's here today because she has a brand new book, and she would love for us to hear about her new book as it's now in pre-order. It's called The Watchman on the Hill. So we're so excited because she was actually one of the people that was live on site on January 6th. Okay, she is a woman of color. She is a woman of the gospel, and we'd like to hear what she has to share with us that took place on that day. So without further ado, Miss Sheila Griffin.
Hello, it's a joy to join you today. It's always exciting to be on the Arlene Show. There's no place better. We appreciate your wisdom.
Thank you so much, Sheila. I could also say Dr. Sheila Griffin as opposed to Attorney Sheila Griffin. So with all those titles, we know that you're a wealth of information and knowledge. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a mother of 5 children, but I've spent most of my life in inquiry because ignorance is something that is not easily tolerated. And so I always am asking the next question so that we can live better, do better. And so that's how you come to have so much education. It's not so that you can somehow or another flaunt it, but it's so that you can serve well. And that's my heart.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get into it. You are a minister of the gospel, and you shared with us in the past that your denomination sends you to many different places, but you're also abiding primarily in the DC area right now, as you have run for Congress yourself and participated in our political process. So I would like to know, what is it that brought you to the Capitol that day? Because so many people who are a part of the Stop the Steal movement came, and people who were a part of the Trump movement, but that wasn't why you went at all. You said you had an alternate reason for going. Why was it that you were at the Capitol that day?
When I was running for Congress, one of the things that happened is you're moving so fast, you don't have a time to rehearse. And so what I did was I had kept logs the entire time. So once I did not make the primaries, I sat down with my logs to just review, just to put everything in perspective, because I really believed I was supposed to run. So I looked through my logs, and there was one note that I know. I felt in my gut, I felt in my heart that I was supposed to be in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, and nothing would stop me. So I loaded up right before the end of December and headed to Washington. Why was I supposed to be at the Capitol? That's a good question, because most of the things that I had heard had nothing to do with being there for rallies, being there for business, or somehow or another doing some political theater. So I came out of obedience to an unction.
Interesting. The plot thickens. So you came out of obedience. And another thing you shared in your book was that you had come to DC actually the day before.
I did a test run.
Now, what happened when you came the night before that was different from what happened on the day of?
Oh my God, it was so different. I thought I would come about 3 o'clock, and I would basically walk a path and find out where to park and all of that. Because most of the time when I came, I normally was Ubering, so I wasn't paying any attention. But this time, all the roads were blocked. Police were everywhere. We had to. Okay.
I want you to stop there. Thank you so much, team, for putting us both on together. So when you went the first day, all the roads were blocked. Right, that's
everything. 8 blocks. Matter of fact, it was 8 blocks up. You had to walk a long distance to get to the Capitol.
Okay, which is the norm. You usually have to park far away from the Capitol.
And you couldn't bring a car in. Right? We couldn't bring a car in. We had to walk. The barricades were all the way out to the street. They weren't up on the Capitol. And there never is anybody allowed to park in the circle going around the Capitol. And I've had cab drivers cited just for dropping me off. Because they slowed down too long to let me out. And that's the way it was that day of the 5th. So the next day, I expected it to be the same. But
okay.
It was not.
But what happened then the next day when you went back?
Number one, I was shocked because the same streets that I could not drive down, I could drive all the way up to the Capitol. And I parked 1 block away. I loved it, but I parked 1 block away. Then as we were headed to the Capitol, there were the fencing that was all the way to the edge was all the way back to the building. It was no longer so you could walk all the. You still had a guardrail around the sidewalk, but it wasn't It was all the way back toward the Capitol when you look at where you could still walk to.
Okay, now why do you think that was significant for some of the people who have not put that together? Why do you think that was significant that the next day it seemed like you could get completely right up to the Capitol, but formerly you weren't able to, and there was a whole lot of security there, but then the day of the 6th there didn't seem to be much security? Why do you think that was?
All of the media was saying there were tens of thousands of people coming to these rallies, right? And I knew that there was going to be a rally. So we're headed, and I'm like, I don't know where we're going, but I know that we're supposed to be here. And so when I don't know why they pulled everything back, DC police stood down. It was not that many Capitol police that I could see as normal. It seemed like they were half-staffed. When I say that language, I'm just saying what I could see with my eyes. I really don't know. I know they say that may be true, but I didn't understand. So when all the people were headed to my left, I heard a noise of a horn blow that is known as a shofar. And so we headed that direction. And I did not know that there was a gathering of all these people who had came to pray for the nation. And that's the side that we headed onto. So we did not go to the.
You went there in order to pray and on the peaceful side, not with the other people who were doing the protesting.
As far as I knew, they were the peaceful side too, because I had 2 friends that were there. One of the young ladies came. She came by herself, and she just jumped on a plane and came. There was another guy. He's like, "Oh, we're just going to go," and they're going to. So as far as all of them,
so one of the reasons why you were inspired to write this book was that when you began hearing a lot of things in the media, you felt like you were there, you were an eyewitness to these things, and you really wanted to share and get the word out about what it was that you saw and heard on that day. And so that's why the title of the book is called, tell us the title.
It's The Watchman on the Hill. When I arrived, what we saw is so much different than what is happening on television. Television is a myopic way of communicating to us whatever is negative in a society. Very rarely does it tell us about the people who are championing life, who are championing the United States. Instead, it looks for salacious headlines. And I'm sorry, but I saw people who were greeting each other, who were friendly, and some were praying. And I know I was on the quote unquote other side of the Capitol. I call it the other side of the coin.
Okay, so it's significant that you said you really didn't see, because you were on the other side of the Capitol, you didn't see it from the perspective that we see on television now with the people climbing the Capitol and busting through the glass and doing all sorts of things. Nefarious things. But I also want you to share with us, we're going to go to break, but I want, when we come back, we'll have the book accessible. It's in pre-order, and they can go to the bit.ly/Sheila Griffin, bit.ly/Sheila Griffin, and they can get their hands on a copy of the book, even now in pre-order. Click on the link. And then I also want you to share with us a little bit about your background in terms of being a Republican of color, because I also think that that's a nuance for many of us to understand, a woman of your stature who is, in ministry, helping us to do better and become better. And yet you're a Republican. Share with us a little bit about why that is and what the history of that is as you understand it. Thank you so much. We're going to be right back after this quick announcement.
I'm Arlene, host of the television talk show Ask Arlene, which airs on Thursdays at 6:30. And I'm here to tell you 2 reasons why you should join our Speakers Bureau training and how to become a world-class speaker. 1, revenue generation. People who know how to communicate well earn more dollars and cents. And 2, if you have a day job, you're not a speaker, teacher, author, trainer, you're going to gain promotion on your job if you're better able to communicate with confidence in those board meetings. Now, you say, why should I join your group, Arlene? There are so many programs out there. Well, I'm guaranteeing you an interview on television or radio if you complete our 10 sessions of our Speakers Bureau training. So I have a plethora of friends that do the same types of things that I do, and so we're guaranteeing you an interview on either television or radio. And you say, well, why else, Arlene? Why else should I join? Well, if you join our Speakers Bureau after having taken the 10-session training, I am going to help you, along with our team, to launch that speaking career that you always envisioned so that you can use your message to change the world. So there's so many programs out there, and they tell you how to be a speaker. But I'm going to actually help you to get booked on paid speaking engagements, on television, and on radio if you complete all 10 sessions and you join our Speakers Bureau. I hope to see you there and see you using your dream, your vision, and your talent to change the world. Bye-bye. See you there.
Hello, and welcome back to the show. We're so excited today because we have with us Sheila Griffin, who is an author of the book called The Watchman on the Hill. That means she was an attendee at the January 6th insurrection. However, this minister and attorney of the gospel and this doctor, she is actually a Republican. And in addition to sharing with us today about what she saw, which is what her book is about, she's going to tell us a little bit of history about why she's a Republican and what the history is of people of color as Republicans. Hi, Sheila.
Hello. I'm going to tell you the short version, okay? Right now, ever since I was 18, I registered as a Republican. I looked for the history of those who had written all the civil rights bills and the civil rights acts in the United States. And the founding of the Republican Party and all the way through the adoption of criminal justice reform that happened this year, the adoption of Martin Luther King. But there's more principled reasons. I'm a principle versus personality nut. And so I want you to please own your own business as opposed to just have a job. When they start talking about affordable housing, I know they're paying somebody for you to live there, and they're the one that are making money. So I'm for home ownership versus affordable housing. And so I'm for family first versus all the nuances of the way we split the population. I'm for balanced budgets versus continue to borrow money and use the people's money in a way that's irresponsible. And so a lot of those principles made me find my home in the Republican Party. It doesn't.
Okay, in addition to that, you have a very unique perspective on the whole Donald Trump situation. You feel like he was actually a president that, you supported.
I voted for Donald Trump, and I voted for him specifically because I followed, in this case, a party line, not a personality. Because you have to be able to say there are certain ethical things you believe in. Now, please remember, that does not mean that I co-sign whatever you do if it does not conform to those things that are moral or those things that are good.
But you said you had some ideologies that were in line with his that you said were very profound, that he had contributed money to
within the first 90 days.
And things like that. Sorry?
Yeah, within the first 90 days, the money that went to the historically Black colleges, universities, the money that went to making the Martin Luther King in Atlanta to be a part of government so they didn't have to fundraise every year, the money that went to making sure that the capital was moved to Jerusalem from in Israel. There were just so many things right behind each other. And to be honest with you, I had no expectation. No one had crafted any bills for the inner city before that. So to have somebody talking about we're going to do urban investment and get companies to put things so that these young people have jobs inside the city, move. And then the prison reform was the capstone, because I was pushing so hard in Florida for prison reform and jail reform. I was getting nowhere. Once that thing dropped on the federal level, all of a sudden, all these programs opened in Florida.
So you can see that in your estimation, some of the things that you were looking for and pushing for as also a congressional candidate yourself in terms of prison reform and in terms of looking at HBCU support, you felt like this was someplace that you could call home. After what many people call the January 6th insurrection and experiencing and hearing so many things, are you still a Trump supporter?
I'm not sure I'm a Trump supporter as much as I am a Trump policy supporter, because his policies actually work.
Okay.
So
a lot of what you're saying is that you were in the Watchman on the Hill. You were saying that you saw these situations, but you saw them differently than what we all saw on television, which was happening on the other side of the Capitol. And you're also saying that in terms of the principles that you hold dear and near to your heart, like HBCU support and prison reform, you felt at that time that those things were things that were in line with the principles and policies that you were seeking. Now, based on what's going on, you don't necessarily support the person, you supported the policies. And so you're inviting people to take a look at your book and see what you say you experienced on that day. And that's why I'm so excited to have you on. Because I think
I expect the level of inquiry that's going on in the January 6th committees is still bothering me, because they're not answering the question. The question is not whether or not a president who's willing to make these choices, which was and will ever be trusted in a position. The question is, how is it that 5 agencies charged with the security of the United States defaulted? From the FBI, National Guard, the DC Capitol Police, the Capitol Police Board, which was in charge of the Capitol itself. How is it all of these defaulted? So when you sit in the beast for 45 minutes, even though you wanted to go to the Capitol, and so they don't let you go to the Capitol in front of these people, but there's nothing there to protect anyone. How is it that doors that are huge, gigantic doors just open? It's just so many things so the person is boastful. And
okay, you said something that was really interesting. You just said, how is it that the doors of the Capitol just opened? That was very interesting. You felt like it was more of a welcoming, as many people said, rather than it was boring. And then people were breaking in. So that's very interesting. We want to shift a little only because we only have 1 minute or so left. I'm going to ask the team to tell us how many minutes we have left so we can stay afloat. The overall theme of the show is how to overcome fear, get unstuck, and live your best life. I understand that you have a wealth of information, and that's why we want people to grab their copy of the book so that they can get more information, because what you're talking about is definitely a nuance. It's definitely not something that we're familiar with. And so that's why, once again, the link is down below, guys. Take a look at it. Thank you, team. bit.ly/Sheila Griffin, because we want to hear more from her and we want to get more information about what she saw and what she heard. And also this perspective that is alternate from maybe what we've been most familiar with. Before you go, though, you are an accomplished person. And we want you to give us a little bit of insight about that, because many of us who watch the show have our own desires and goals and dreams and visions to write their own books and to become the person who we truly believe we can be in the world, acquire these degrees. Tell us before you go, tell us, how is it that you have been able to acquire so many degrees and so much information, and you didn't start out as a wealthy person? As a matter of fact, you had 5 kids of your own, and then you took in a number of kids as well while you're going through this process. So how did you acquire all of this?
Passion, it's passion from pain. So now I teach the laws of God to those who are in political office, and I teach the laws of men to those who are in pastoral office. So I'm running double-breasted in my thought pattern and in the things that I teach. We have to be able to communicate well what it is we want from America. What do we expect? And we cannot choose to make other people our enemies in order to satisfy our desires. We have all come flawed. And so I'm willing to step in and say fear cannot be the answer. Fear, even if you watch the January 6th, it cannot be the answer. There is another answer. Have faith and accelerate and act, because you have the answer. Matter of fact, you are the answer.
Okay, well said. We are the answer. We have the answer. So I hear some people who are in the crowd, because I just often hear things, and I hear some people saying, well, I'm a mom and I have 3 kids of my own, and I am a single parent, and I have a full-time job. And yes, I would love to have a business. And yes, I would love to go back to school, but I don't know how to find the time. But yet you seem to have been able to do it with 5 children, as well as, you know, at one point you had a husband who was, how do you say it? I want to say it politically correct, in the politically correct way. So
differently abled.
Disabled?
Differently abled.
Differently abled, right. So you were also taking care of your husband, who was differently abled, along with the 5 kids, along with bringing kids into your home at different times and going to law school.
I think that once you know who you are, you can do anything. But most of us have not spent enough time with ourselves to know what space we feel. Because as soon as you know who you are, you begin to take up larger slices of life, and you're able to give more. And to whom much is given, not only is much required, but the same receives more. And so I received more time because I gave time. I received more money because I gave money. I received more joy because I gave joy. And so it cancels out the tyranny of fear.
So I understand when you said I gave more and so I received more, because that is one of the principles that before you receive, it's important for us to give. And we know that many people practice the concept of tithing. So you're giving your first fruits and all of that. But my question is, take it a step further for us and tell us what are some other steps that you used in order to determine who you truly were in the midst of not being wealthy, in the midst of a multiplicity of kids and a multiplicity of responsibilities that may have made another person throw up their hands and just say, okay, I can't deal with this. But instead, you were going to the heights and getting additional degrees.
I anchor everything in faith. And if I believe it, I already see myself finished. And if I'm already finished, then all I'm really doing is walking through a procedure.
Because we only have a minute left, I'm going to pull on you a little bit, and hopefully you don't mind. You said you had your faith. You and I both know that there are many people who are a part of Christendom who have faith, and they believe, and they go to church, and yet there are very many people who are struggling and not living victorious lives. So there is something, in addition to you just saying, I have faith and I believe, but there's something deeper that you were doing that made you know your true identity that we could maybe share with the people today that might make a transition or might cause a shift so that we can, see growth and overcome our fears and get unstuck.
Not only do you magnetically attract everything you're pursuing, you immediately start negating people out of your life who do not go with you. And we want everyone to go with us, but they can't. You cannot hold focus to get to where you need to get unless you follow the path that is laid out before you. And
okay, what if the person is your husband and you can't get rid of them, but yet you still want to achieve that goal? What do?
You stay focused on just building you. You don't have to get rid of a spouse in order to do that. Some people think, oh, matter of fact, that might be the reason you're actually able to serve. Because it's tempered you. It's made you humble instead of brash. Because brash is boldness without humility. And
okay, so that's a really good point in that last second. Some people think that the difficulties of life and the challenges actually prevent us from moving forward. If we're in that positive stance and we can use it to propel us forward, like Miss Sheila Griffin just said, then that's great because you're using that to push you forward. So that spouse that's a challenge, that's not necessarily looking to grow like you are, you're using him to push you forward. But how? How did you do that?
I wish I had a nice, concise answer for you, but I do not.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to invite you back to talk about this further, about how you've been able to win at the game of life. I'd like to thank the team, Baki and Angel. Thank you to our guest, Dr. Attorney Sheila Griffin. And I'd like to thank you, our listeners, because without you, we don't have a show. Once again, go to AskArleneShow.com and also please like and subscribe to our website on YouTube. If you like this video, then we'll know that we should do more like this. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a great week.
Name some things I'll be without you, good. Stop the growth, I bet you think you could. Said you gon' leave me, man, I wish you would. Yeah, I'm different, so I'm misunderstood. So I'ma always be good. Said I'ma always be good.